Assalamu alaikum dear learners, and welcome to this program on direct and indirect speech. There are two main ways of reporting people's words, thoughts, beliefs, etc. Number 1. Direct speech. We can give the actual words that were said or that we imagine were said. This kind of structure is called direct speech. Remarks which are repeated are placed between inverted commas and a comma or colon is placed immediately before the remark. For example, she said, "I am not feeling well." Example 2. Saqib said, "It is very hot." Example 3. The child said to his mother, "I need some milk." The second way is indirect speech. We can make a speaker's words or thoughts part of our own sentence using conjunctions, for example that, and changing pronouns, tenses, and other words where necessary. This kind of structure is called indirect speech or reported speech. For example, she said that she was not feeling well. Saqib said that it was very hot. The child said to his mother that he needed some milk. There is no comma after saying indirect speech. That can usually be omitted after say and tell, but it should be kept after other verbs, for example, complain, explain, object, point out, protest, etc. Indirect speech is normally used when some conversation is reported verbally, though direct speech is sometimes employed here too to give a more dramatic effect. Now there are some rules which you should know to make use of direct-indirect speech correctly. Change of situation. Words that are spoken or thought in one place by one person may be reported in another place at a different time and perhaps by a different person. Because of this, there are often grammatical differences between direct and indirect speech. These changes are often natural and logical. Indirect speech can be introduced by a verb in a present tense. He says that. And this is usual when we are A. Reporting a conversation that is still going on. B. Reading a letter and reporting what it says. C. Reading instructions and reporting them. D. Reporting a statement that someone makes very often. When the introductory verb is in a present perfect or future tense, we can report the direct speech without any change of tense. For example, Paul, phoning from the station, "I'm trying to get a taxi." Eliza, to Pamela, who is standing beside her, Paul says he is trying to get a taxi. Indirect speech is usually introduced by a verb in the past tense. Verbs in the direct speech have then to be changed into a corresponding past tense. For example, simple present, "I never eat meat," he explained. Indirect, he explained that he never ate meat. Present continuous, "I'm waiting for Anne," he said. Indirect, it will change to past continuous. He said that he was waiting for Anne. Present perfect, "I have found a flat," he said. Indirect speech, he said that he had found a flat. Present perfect continuous. He said, "I've been waiting for ages." This will change into past perfect continuous. He said that he had been waiting for ages. And then you have got simple past. "I took it home with me," she said. Indirect, she said that she had taken it home with her. Now you should know the use of shall, should, would. Shall normally becomes would in indirect speech. For example, "I shall meet Danish tomorrow," Hamid said. Hamid said that he would meet Danish the following day. But remember, if the sentence is reported by the original speaker, shall becomes either should or would, though would is more common. Similarly, should usually becomes would in indirect speech. If I had the instruction manual, I should know what to do, Bill said. Now see how it changes into indirect speech. Bill said if he had instruction manual, he would know what to do. But if the sentence is reported by the original speaker, should becomes either would or remains unchanged, though would is more common. Now, use of unreal past tenses, what we call subjunctives, in indirect speech. Unreal past tenses after wish, would rather, it is time, do not change. For example, we wish we did not have to take exam, said the children. The children said that they wished they did not have to take exam. Number 2, Anne said, Bill wants to go alone, but I would rather he went with a group. Anne said that Bill wanted to go alone, but that she would rather he went with a group. It's time we began planning our holidays, John said. John said that it was time they began planning their holidays. Just like should, would, you should know the use of you ought to and you should. If you ought to, should is used to express advice rather than obligation, can be reported by advice plus object plus infinitive. You must can also express advice and be reported similarly. For example, you ought to read instructions, said Anne. Anne advised me to read instructions, or Anne urged me to read the instructions, or Anne want me to read the instructions. Second sentence, you should read instructions, said Anne. Anne advised me or urged me or want me to read the instructions. Third, you must read instructions, Anne said. And the same thing, advised, urged or want, and then the same thing, me to read the instructions. Now the use of this and these. This used in time expressions usually becomes that. For example, he said, she's becoming this week. She said that she was coming that week. Otherwise, this and that used as adjectives usually change to the. For example, he said, I bought these pearls for my mother. He said that he had bought the pearls for his mother. Now there is question of expressions of time and place in indirect speech. Adverbs and adverbial phrases of time change as follows. Today changes into that day, yesterday into the day before yesterday into 2 days before, tomorrow into the next day or the following day, the day after tomorrow changes into in 2 days' time, next week or next year become the following year or the following week. Last week becomes the previous week, last year the previous year. A year ago becomes a year before or the previous year. Examples, I'm going to give you a few. I saw her the day before yesterday, he said. He said that he had seen her 2 days before. I will do it tomorrow, he promised. He promised that he would do it the next day. But if the speech is made and reported on the same day, these time changes are not necessary. For example, at breakfast this morning he said, "I'll be very busy today." At breakfast this morning he said that he would be very busy today. Logical adjustments are of course necessary if a speech is reported 1 or 2 days after it is made. For example, on Monday Jack said to Tom, "I'm leaving the day after tomorrow." If Tom reports his speech the next day, that is Tuesday, he will probably say, "Jack said he was leaving tomorrow." If he reports this speech on Wednesday, he will probably say, "Jack said he was leaving today." Now, the question of here, H-E-R-E. Here can become there, but only when it is clear what place is meant. For example, at the station he said, I'll be here again tomorrow." He said that he would be there again the next day. Usually here has to be replaced by some phrase. For example, she said, "You can sit here, Tom." This can be changed into, "She told Tom that he could sit beside her."